Hello everyone. Let's take this time to intentionally come together. I don't think there's any no callers today, so everyone is pretty well aware of the intention and purpose of our being together and the process for withdrawing attention into the pure awareness of being. Let's all do so now by being aware of awareness itself, pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is the one self that we all are. Let's withdraw our attention into this pure consciousness, the heartfelt radiance of simple I am. Not I am this or I am that, but simply I am in thoughtless awareness for the next few minutes. Now remaining in this pure awareness, the stillness and silence, heartfelt as I am. Let's consider the daily messages of the past week. As we know, they're taken from the book Guru Ramana Maharshi by who? Pure Conscious Teaching of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. One of the more significant books of his teaching. You might say it's just a booklet, it's very small, but it is huge in the messages that it contains. the conscious process for awakening and abiding in the pure awareness of being, the state of liberation. So beginning with last Sunday's message, number 2444, which is verse 148 in the booklet. O mind, you have already suffered thinking I am an individual. Do not fall into a worse delusion by believing I am God, Brahman, the absolute or supreme being. In the transcendental state, there is no one answering to the name of I. The footnote, the I that is the first term of the expression I am God or I am Brahman is unreal. That is, there is in fact no such being even now. And even the illusory appearance of it will cease when true illumination is won. Hence, the expression can easily mislead and worsen bondage instead of taking one to freedom. Verse 149, Tuesday's or Monday's message. Man behaves recklessly even while believing I am this very little body. If he begins to think I am that supreme one, will anything remain which he would consider wrong to do? Tuesday's message, verse 150. The true nature of the real self in its purity is the unqualified consciousness I am. Therefore, the spiritual seeker should only meditate I am, without any predicate such as this or that. See this earnestly and constantly. The footnote, the safe procedure is here indicated. The ego is a confused mixture of reality and unreality, as explained in the book Mahayoga. The reality of it, the I am, must be meditated upon. The goal being the total extinction of the ego. Wednesday's message, verse 151. The one and only reality can be experienced only by those that attain peace by stilling the mind's movements. It is beyond the reach of those whose minds are restless. The footnote to the verse: mental activity starting from the illusion of the ego sense spreads forth the phantasm of bewildering multiplicity or duality and fragmentation of the self. If this be effaced, that is, removed without a trace, and the mind becomes still, then what is very accurately described as vision of the self will take place naturally. Thursday's message, verse 152. The state of liberated being can be reached only by dying. But this dying does not consist of destruction of the body. One should understand that true death is the extinction of the ideas I and mine, M-I-N-E. We had a question that was called in for today, and the question was asked, what is the meaning of sin in the context of AHAM's teaching? I'm going to read the next verse in the daily messages, which will be today's message that goes out coincidentally, being verse 153 from Guru Ramana Maharshi. You are not the physical body, nor the vital energy, such as breath, etc., nor the sense organs, such as the sight, sound, hearing, taste, touching, and so forth, nor the mind, nor the reasoning faculty, such as the intellect, nor the ego, the sense of I. When the original sin, which consists in identifying oneself with any of these, is given up, I'm going to continue with about 3 more of these because they deal with this time of the year, today's holiday. Verse 154, the mind is led to perfect quiescence, that's absolute stillness, in the heart through the quest of the real self in the form of the question, who am I? When the world appearance ceases, that being which then shines as I am is your real self. That's the resurrection. Verse 155, after understanding the above substance of the teaching of the Vedantas, which is very subtle, one should engage in the quest of the real self in order to win liberation through quiescence of the mind. Liberation is resurrection. Verse 156. All human thoughts are strung upon the thread of the thought, I am this body. All thoughts, therefore, will cease if one dives into the heart, seeking the practical answer to the question, who am I, or whence am I? From whence is this sense of I? And 157, if all the thought waves of the mind become stilled in this way, then the very truth of oneself, the real self, shines forth of itself as I am. The ego dies, that's crucifixion, and happiness is patent. So the message today gives us the meaning of the crucifixion and resurrection. Understand, you don't have to crucify the body, only the mind. So the end of the readings. Now, let's all remain to the best of our ability in this consciousness of thoughtless awareness, the peace of the very self, the only true freedom. Feel it right now. The movelessness, the motionlessness, the movelessness of the mind. Absolute stillness. Fully alert, remain alert in this stillness. This is the natural state of being. The natural state is awareness without thought. When there are no random thoughts, uncontrolled thoughts occurring, this is the natural state. Absolutely still, silent. The peace, as Jesus said, that passes all understanding. It is totally unreasonable, totally uncaused, not the result of anything. It just is. It's pure isness. See for yourself. Thought disturbs this stillness, this peace of the self. Thus see for yourself that the self is pure consciousness prior to the mind, prior to thought. This is the resurrection and the life. Jesus said it this way: I am the resurrection and the life. The pure I am that we all are is the resurrection and the life. Know this as your own true nature. Abide in it as it, and be happy. Namaste. Namaste. Now let's all remain in this awareness, as this awareness, as we are together in fellowship, capable of communicating and relating with one another, and sharing with one another our conscious insights, clearings, completions, and pure understanding, or perhaps posing our questions in order to better understand the pure teaching of AHAM or your own spiritual process. So if anyone has a question, this would be the time to raise your question. Anyone? Yes?
This is Karen.
Karen.
Hello, Karen.
I've heard you talk about what the cross represents, Ramana Maharshi's teaching, and what the body represents. Could you please go over that again?
Well, Karen, it's really very simple. The body represents the cross. It's the I am the body notion. When we are identified with the body, with the I am the body notion, that is the cross. We are nailed to the cross to the extent that means we're totally attached to it, nailed to it, unable to get free from it. As long as we are totally identified with this I am the body notion living in time and space as an apparent entity, a separate being living apart from God, the source, the allness of being. Jesus, the Son of Man, is the ego. And it's the ego that lives identified with the body and the mind, living in time and space. Jesus, the Christ, is the resurrection. That's when we cease identification with the body and the mind and remain in the pure I am, the absolute stillness and silence of pure being, just as we were, if you were, before, and if you are now. The stillness, the silence of the thought-free awareness of pure being. Prior to the mind, free of the ego, in the pure awareness of the self, when the ego is dead, when it has been effaced, when it has been annihilated, when it has been totally dissolved into the pure being of pure consciousness, there is no longer a mind, for the mind and the ego are synonymous. So this is the resurrection. When we awaken to the pure being of the self and are able to abide forever in this pure being in thoughtless awareness. Feel it right now. It's more important to have the event as your own than to have an explanation of it. Are you with me, Karen?
Yes, Ramana.
Okay.
thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your question.
This is Vivian.
Pull it up closer to you.
As I was writing the take notes, and you used the word when you spoke of the ego dying, and that's the crucifixion, the realization came that on the wordplay, the word fiction is in there. And so the whole thing is fiction.
Okay. I don't believe that's the true etymology. But we'll accept that. Okay. Thank you, Vivian. All right, anyone else? What is truly significant is look to see and let go so as that you are abiding presently, ongoingly, in the stillness and silence of your own pure being, which is the one pure being, the one being of the self that we all are, not two. In this pure being is the I. There is no other. There is just I am.
Hello everyone, it's Elizabeth. Ramana, I was looking at a very familiar book that we used to use in our church services when we first started AHAM. And it came
It's
to
a Unity
this,
songbook.
Yes, the Unity Songbook. And it came to an Easter reading. And it just flows so beautifully with what you were sharing, so we're right in sync as usual. I am the resurrection and the life, from John 11:25. He who follows me as I am will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life, from John 8:12. The cross of Jesus is an emblem of triumph. It stands as the symbol of the supreme overcoming. The Christ in me crosses out all error and reveals the truth of eternal life. I deny the self that I may unite with the selfless. I give up the mortal that I may attain the immortal. I dissolve the thought of the physical body that I may realize the spiritual body. Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb, from John 20:1. I now remove the stone of doubt from the tomb and allow the Christ within me to come forth. The Christ within me is my glory. The brightness of his presence wipes out all darkness. and I am filled with light, life, and peace. We shall pass over the dark hour of the cross briefly as the shadow of a hand across the light of the sun, for his message is, I am the resurrection and the life. I rise triumphant, splendid, glorious, and free.
Thank you, Elizabeth. From a spoken word point of view, the words that Elizabeth is sharing in the reading, if we use them as pointers to the very quality of being rather than thinking them, think them. Don't consider them in thought, for a thought is in the mind, and the pure being of the self transcends the mind. It's prior to the mind. One day, all of us must drop the identification with the body absolutely. The day may come sooner or later. If we have dropped identification with the body and the mind sooner, then we will be able to do it easily later. Simply see this. Our ongoing identification with the body-mind, as though the body-mind is the self, is what keeps us in the ongoing state of sin. Sin is not meaning that we're a bad person. Good and bad are states of mind. They are states in the world. Pure being is the self that we are. It is neither good nor bad. It is prior to all distinctions and totally free of all distinctions. We can abide in the pure awareness of being even while engaged in ordinary activity of daily life. The self is infinite and eternal. It's not affected by time and space. So we can abide in the pure awareness of the self prior to the time and space, even while the body is living in time and space and functioning in time and space. You don't give thought to every step that you take when you're walking unless you lose your balance. But while you're walking, it's very ordinary, easy, and natural for you to do so without thought. In such an ordinary activity as walking and moving about the body, when it can be done without thought, do we not see that it is possible to do everything else without thought as well. Driving an automobile is done without thought. We think when we reach the destination, or a particular intersection, or perhaps when an automobile is in the cross-section of the intersection, but look to see for yourself how many times you've gotten into your automobile and have driven for several blocks and can't even remember whether the signal light was green or red that you went through on reaching a particular destination. See for yourself how often you are able to accomplish actions without giving thought to those actions. They happen naturally. To the extent that we can and do withdraw our attention into the pure awareness of being, remaining in the pure awareness of being as the pure awareness of being, we will become more and more capable of functioning in time and space without identification with the body in time and space. It is possible. It just requires our involvement consciously, our practice. Practice without ceasing, because it's identification with the body and the mind and the sense of I and the sense of separateness from the source that is the one and only cause of all suffering, all doubt, all fear, all worry, all concern. However, when we abide in the pure awareness of being, as the pure awareness of being, there's no fear, no worry, no suffering, no doubt, and no concern. It requires thought to have any of these. And when we abide in the pure awareness of being, prior to thought, without thought, there are none of the limitations, the concerns, the trials and tribulations of ordinary life. It's what Jesus called living in the world, but not of the world. This we're all capable of if we will practice it by withdrawing our attention into the pure awareness of the being that we actually are and remain in this being that we are as this being that we are, without identification with what we're not. We are not the body. We are not the ego. We are not the mind. We are pure awareness, pure consciousness. This is living in the resurrected awareness of pure being. Okay, anyone?
Ramana,
All right.
this is Saroja.
All right.
There was a lot of disturbance since the beginning of the call. I don't know, someone must have been moving about, so I couldn't hear much of what you said, what was said during the call. And I want to thank whoever was moving or making that noise, because it gave me a great opportunity to see how much I'm still affected by outside things, and to use the inquiry and the forgiveness process and just be quietly sitting down and with whatever it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Saroja. Anyone else?
Hey, Ramana.
All right.
It's Silvana.
All right, Silvana.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. My birthday was yesterday, and I usually have like very big parties and see a lot of people, and I'm usually just very active and doing things that are not so good for my body, I guess. And yesterday I was feeling really anxious the whole day, and I couldn't really quite get to the bottom of why I was feeling such anxiety.
I'm sorry.
And I realized that
Why she was feeling so much
I
anxiety.
was so anxious because I didn't want to do what I usually do.
Has she been identifying with the not self as though that is the self, and now you're beginning to see what it is to abide in the self?
Yeah, but I'm really scared.
Yes, that's the ego. That's the body mind itself, the ego itself that is scared. But be right now with me. In being scared, see the fear and feel the fear. Do not avoid it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, in seeing the fear and being with the fear, observe it, watch it, and see for yourself. Is there not, in this awareness that you are while you're seeing the fear, is there any fear in this awareness that sees the fear?
No.
No. So you are the awareness. Just simply get it. That's all there is to it. This is all we ever have to do, is to just get it, that we are the awareness that is prior to the mind, and mind is where fear is. Mind is where suffering is, where doubt and uncertainties are. But this pure awareness that we are has none of that in it. It is free. It is at peace. Can you see? Are you able to abide in this awareness and see that prior to the mind there is none of the upsets of the mind?
Yes.
Well, all that is necessary is to choose to remain in this awareness. Now you remain in this awareness by being, as we all are right now, in conscious company, or by returning your attention back into the pure awareness by the process of inquiry. Do you see?
Yes, Ramana.
This is all there is to it, love. Stay with the practice of inquiry. Even while engaged in all of the worldly activities, and you can remain in this pure awareness as this pure awareness without being at the effect of anything going on with regard to the mind and the body and all of the events of the conditioning of the mind. And you will begin to see ways and means of staying in the withdrawn attention of the self. Are you with me?
Yes, Ramana.
Stay in this stillness. Stay in this silence. Watch your breath and recognize your breath as a focal point to stay in the present moment, for your breathing occurs always in the present moment. The breath and the mind have a common root or source. They rise out of thought of the self, from the self. Are you feeling the peace and the stillness right now of the awareness that is prior to the mind and free of the mind?
Yes.
All right. Remain here. Stay here. This is your true and natural state. This is the state that we all rise out of in thought through body-mind identification, but stay in it as it, free of body-mind identification. Stay in it as it forever and be happy. Namaste, love. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hey, Ramana. Thank you.